The government's brokered a deal with banks in a bid to keep roofs over homeowners' heads. There will be 6-month mortgage holidays for people whose incomes have been savaged by COVID-19. The banks and government also unveiled a $6.25 billion safety net for small to medium businesses, basically a credit line aimed at protecting jobs and keeping business doors open long term. Loans will be capped at $500,000 over 3 years and interest will apply. The government will also shoulder 80% of the credit risk. Joining me now is Finance Minister Grant Robertson. Good evening, Minister.
Good evening, Lisa.
I know there's a lot to still be finalised here, but in terms of the mortgage holidays, what are your expectations around what that will mean in practical terms?
Yeah, well, obviously it's up to each bank to determine the precise details, but what we've been able to agree with them is that they will be offering 6-month holidays. That is for both principal and interest. And, that's really important because as people have been either losing their jobs, going down to reduced hours, having reduced incomes, there's a lot of pressure around those mortgage payments. This allows those mortgage holders who have been affected to be able to access that holiday. I do ask this, and I'll get this in early, that we've worked really hard with the banks on this over the last few days, and I thank them for their work. They are now having to get the systems set up, and so those detailed arrangements for each individual bank will be out within days. Please, if you're a mortgage holder, don't bombard your bank. Wait to see when they come out with the details and then contact them then. But we thought it was really important to get that out now because I know it's been a subject of a lot of stress for people.
When you say you've done a lot of work on this over the past few days, did they take some convincing? And were you asking for longer than 6 months in terms of the holiday?
No, we weren't, and this is based on the Australian scheme, which is a 6-month one as well. It was more a matter of talking through with the banks both this and the Business Financing Guarantee Scheme, just to make sure that everybody could do it. Quite clearly, Lisa, we've had competition law and so on in New Zealand that means that banks don't generally collaborate together on things like this. So there have been, some rules and regs to work our way through. Each bank has obviously got slightly different ways that it goes about mortgage lending, and so we just had to work our way through all of that and also the details of that Business Finance Guarantee Scheme. But I really do want to thank the banks for their cooperation. The Reserve Bank have also been part of these discussions, and they've moved to make it easier in terms of what the banks are required to do and their core funding ratios in terms of when they give loans out. So it's been a really collaborative effort.
OK, let's move on to the $6.25 billion finance guarantee scheme. Now, this is for small to medium businesses. You're taking on 80% of the credit risk. Why so high here? What were you aiming to do?
Well, essentially, we're aiming to make sure that the money gets out the door and it gets to the businesses that need it. What we're talking about here are businesses that are solvent, businesses that have been viable up until this point, but are facing, significant headwinds. We want those businesses and the workers who are within them to make sure that they can keep their jobs and keep their incomes. This is a way of, as you said it yourself in the introductory comments, of effectively opening up a line of credit for that. The risk we had by putting too much risk on the banks themselves is that they would apply perhaps more traditional lending criteria. We want to make sure we open that up a bit, share a greater degree of the risk on the Crown's balance sheet, which is obviously very strong, and make sure, therefore, that the loans are approved. Businesses still have to be, functioning businesses, and there'll still be processes to go through to get the loans, but taking on a greater share of risk for the Crown just means more people will benefit and more jobs will be saved.
So basically you're saying, without being flippant about it, you're saying that you were encouraging, by taking this level of risk on to the government, you're encouraging the banks to give people a bigger crack than they would normally.
Absolutely, that's the point. And look, banks, we can all on another day and another time have our thoughts about the way that banks have, profits they make and all of those sorts of things. But ultimately, they are businesses. They make these business decisions. This is giving them more confidence to lend, not to lend in a silly way, but
but you're encouraging them to push the boat out, aren't you, a little bit?
Yes, absolutely, because these are extraordinary times, and good businesses that employ lots of people, that pay the wages of people and their families, look after their families, they could be losing their jobs if we apply too strict, too traditional rule-based approach to this. This gives confidence to the banks, confidence to those people who are going to be applying for the loan.
You are spending up a storm here, aren't you? I mean, you've extended the wage subsidy package by an extra, $4 billion. You're backing the $6.25 billion in loans. You put up $12.1 billion with the business package. How long and how large can you go here?
Yeah, you're not wrong, Lisa, but if you look around the world, you'll see that this is what governments everywhere are doing. This is the rainy day, and the really important thing for New Zealanders to remember is that we came into this with 19.5% debt to GDP ratio. That's one of the lowest in the developed world. That means we've got room on our balance sheet to be able to do this. Now, of course, it's not limitless, and we are entering into a period of great uncertainty, but we're making these decisions so that we can support New Zealanders' livelihoods, support them to stay in their homes, support them to put food on the table, to have jobs that give them wages, and I'll always prioritise that, Lisa, and we've been very careful over the last couple of years. That's meant that we're in this position now to be able to do this. And yes, we're stretching out that balance sheet, but we're doing it for the good of New Zealanders.
I want to talk about wage earners. So, just to be clear, those people who haven't explicitly been told by their employer, the business that they work for, that that business has gone under and will no longer be operating, should those wage earners expect to be paid over the next 4 weeks?
Well, yes, they should be, of course, and businesses will continue to operate. And I really want to stress what I said yesterday. This is really time for employers and employees to talk to each other about what the plan is here. The reason for opening the wage subsidy scheme up to everybody is to exactly do that, give people confidence about that. And look, yesterday I heard of a business where yesterday morning they had said to the 40 staff, we're going to have to let you go. We came through with that extended wage subsidy scheme, and the boss was back on the phone to the workers saying, hang on, come back, we're going to work this through, we think we can make this work. And what we're seeing is businesses looking at that and saying, because we're paying that wage subsidy in a lump sum, they can then use that to spread costs across their business and keep workers employed. And so I really just urge people who are concerned about that, have a chat with the business, chat with your employer and say, where are we at on this? Because, we do have to all be in this together. It's a very stressful time for workers and businesses alike.
I want to get through a couple of things quickly because we're running out of time. In terms of that subsidies package, basically you get kept on at 80% of your pay, right?
Best endeavours to do that, yes.
Yeah. So you're basically, the expectation is that the workers will take a 20% haircut on their wages.
Well, we hope not, but if that's what's necessary to keep people employed, then that's what the scheme's for. I mean, just be clear, it's a subsidy scheme. It's designed to support employers to be able to keep people employed, and we've said that needs to be at least 80%. We put that in place because we thought that was a way of maintaining that attachment between employers and employees. How
many have taken it up, and to what value so far?
I knew you would ask me that, and I don't know if I've got those numbers right. Oh, hang on. Here we are. I'm sorry about that. As of this morning, there were 117,273 applications made for wage subsidies. They're being worked through, and so we've had 41,505 approved in the week since it's been open, with around $687 million paid out so far, but obviously a lot more to come.
Appreciate your time, Minister. That is the Finance Minister, Grant Robertson.